Elevate your dining experience with Rack Porcelain USA. As the exclusive tableware brand for the Walk and Talk podcast, Rack combines exceptional craftsmanship with innovative design. Whether you're a chef, a restaurant owner, or a food enthusiast, Rack's high-quality porcelain products will enhance every meal. Discover the artistry of food presentation and make every dining occasion special. Visit rackporcelain.com today and see how Rack can transform your table. You've just stepped inside the Walk and Talk podcast, #1 in the nation for food lovers, chefs, and storytellers. I'm Carl Fiadini, your host, shining a light on the flavor, the hustle, and the heart of the industry. We're the official podcast for the New York, California, and Florida restaurant shows, the Pizza Tomorrow Summit, the U.S. Culinary Open at NAFM, and the North American media platform for the Burnt Chef Project. Recorded at Ibis Images Studios, where food photography comes alive, and I get the first bite. Find out more, info at thewalkandtalk.com. With SNAP benefits being cut and food insecurity on the rise, more families are learning to stretch what they've got. And Chef Ciji Castro is showing how it's done. Today we're filming a pasteles masterclass for Central Tampa Bay, featuring her puerco guisado, a slow-cooked pork stew built on Del Encanto Foods sofrito, along with family tradition. Ciji's blending the old-school, grinded-by-hand style with the quick modern version anyone can tackle. This episode is about cooking smart and turning affordable staples into comfort food. Ciji pairs her stew with harina to show how real flavor can feed a family of 5 for under $10. She's also sharing no-waste tips, kitchen hacks, and the spirit of making more with less. We're shouting out Feeding Tampa Bay and the World Central Kitchen, both fighting hunger where it matters most, and to close it out, a sweet bite. Fried dough, fresh berries, and a drizzle of pasta honeycomb. Simple, beautiful, and from the heart. Because today's story isn't just about food. It's about resilience, resourcefulness, and the people keeping culture alive, one plate at a time. Chef, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
Listen, let me tell you something. The puerco. Oh my goodness.
You say that every time I cook for you.
I love it so much. But it's not just that the food is great. Your personality in delivering the food is phenomenal. You remind me of the females from my family growing up. And they're just like, you want a plate? I'm going to make you a plate. You want a plate? Okay, what's it good? You want to? I love that because it reminds me of growing up. And anyway, the food is fantastic, but more importantly, or is at least equally as important, your personality when you're here.
Thank you. I love being here with you guys. Yeah, they're kind of like cousins.
It's what it feels like.
Yeah, it is what it feels like.
And well, so it's a full circle because my cousins do this stuff for me.
Oh, that reminds me of my cousin Danny in Miami. He's going to get such a kick out of this.
Yeah.
He thinks the same thing.
It's fun. We have a lot to unpack today. We had a long 2 weeks, and the reality is we just came off of Savor St. Pete, and that was a banger. Tammy, you're awesome. Alexia, Chef Lee, the gang, Chef David Johnston from Kinder's, Ethan Holmes from Rayo's. I mean, so many people. And J-Rod over at Filippo Barrio. My boy, Chef David Reyes. All y'all. It was really great. John, I mean, the photography at the event, my boy, my bro. Fantastic.
I was really impressed with your mobile studio setup at Savor St. Pete. I saw it on Facebook or Instagram.
John shaking his head. Yes. Be happy with that. He acknowledged you. Savor St. Pete last weekend was a banger. Can't wait for next year. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. The chef, Puch Rivera, myself, and the amazing Jordan Fontenot went to Atlanta, flew into Atlanta in the morning. We recorded video and film for a podcast with, wow, this guy's awesome, the chef Freddie Money from Atlas Restaurant, Michelin rated, recent winner of the U.S. Culinary Open. And let me tell you something, this guy is no joke. But more importantly, cool as ice, nicest guy on the planet. And what a team. We got to hang out while they were doing family meal. Wow. I mean, first of all, being in the kitchen at a Michelin restaurant while they're doing their prep, doing the things that they do to hold that title, amazing. And then to hang out with them during that special moment, priceless stuff. Nick, Polly, you guys are amazing. Appreciate you setting that up for us. So many more things to come between the U.S. Culinary Open, Walk and Talk Media, and everybody else. Not to mention, we ran into Chef Nikolai Tram, also a Michelin chef, who was just happened to be there going to say hello to Freddie. What a great day for culinary in terms of what we're doing out there for production. Really great day. Lastly, we were introduced to Lee Wilson from Creative Loafing. This is over at Savor St. Pete. What a cool gal, number one, right? Like the introduction was made and, she's like, Walk and Talk podcast? I said, yeah. She looks back at me. She goes, are you the host guy? I said, yeah. She's like, oh my God, I listened to your show. That's really terrific. I was like, so for me, when other people in media follow what we do, it's the most flattering thing in the world. It's really an amazing feeling because there's some, peer-to-peer, respect or whatever.
100%.
Totally digging it. And the other cool part of the story is she had mentioned how she was on Bubba the Love Sponge like a week or two prior, whatever it was. And she brought us up on his show. I am floored. Like she threw me over the edge. Anyway, it was great to meet her. She's really, really cool. And I think she's going to probably come in over the next week or two. She's going to sit in with us on the show. So keep your eyes open for that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I met her years ago. We turned a bowl together for the nonprofit Bowls for Good. Her and the editor, James Howard. I love Creative Loafing. I love the work that they do, and I love the staff. Really cool.
They do a lot of big stuff with the culinary, man. They're great. But let's talk stew.
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk puerco.
Let's do it.
What did you do to me today?
I fed you guys.
You fed up.
You're in practically a food coma.
I am right now. I don't know how I don't know how I'm speaking with you at this moment. Between the food coma, 2 hours of sleep, we shot yesterday. We filmed yesterday, flew in, shot, got on a plane, flew back, got ready for this morning. We did this whole thing. Pretty amazing.
Impressive.
That was awesome.
And I fed us all. I fed us all for under $5.
So let's talk about that. Well, before we do, what else did you cook today?
So I made the puerco guisado with harina, which is just kind of an ode to my grandparents and something that my grandmother would make my grandfather with, the leftovers, right? You're stretching your leftovers. So if we had a little bit of, puerco guisado is basically just pork stew. So if we had a little bit of that, she would just make harina, which is cornmeal, and mix it in. And, a little bit goes a long way and it's very filling. So I made that today. And then we did pasteles tutorial because we have heard you guys. Everyone's asking, do you have a tutorial? And I didn't. We had a couple B-rolls that we did months ago, my very first walk and talk. But, we didn't have an actual A to Z. So we did one today in English and in Spanish so no one gets left behind. Step by step. How to make those. And that was a request of my friend, Carolina, who's also the editor of Centro Tampa Bay, the sister paper to the Tampa Times. And you're welcome, Carolina. I hope you love it. And then we did a play on sopapillas and beignets, kind of combining the two. Fried dough topped with powdered sugar, a little drizzle of honey, and some fresh berries to kind of balance it out. And I think that's it. It was a lot of food.
It really was. It's a ton of food. And I'm here for it. In the opening monologue, we talked about food insecurity on the rise with snap cuts and everything that's kind of coming on board. It's even affecting the airports and everything. I'm glad we got our stuff done yesterday. And I'm not flying out next week. I saw something in the news this morning about how they think everybody's just going to do a walkout or whatever. I hope that doesn't happen. Ciji, what's the first thing families should remember when money gets tight?
I think that the first thing that I would tell maybe another mother or someone that is struggling, filling their pantry is the first thing I would say is not to panic, right? The second thing I would say would be to seek assistance, because one thing I can say is that Tampa Bay is awesome. Like, I have seen so many organizations, restaurants, even just people in the community rallying to feed our hungry neighbors. So, there is that. And then also, during this time, it's important to have an open mind, right? Like, there's a lot of these keywords like sustainability and organic and all that's great and good. But right now, we need to just focus on survival. And if that means, canned meats like Vienna sausages, which I have to admit, I still make arroz con salchicha on the regular, which is like a one-pot meal of yellow rice and these little Vienna hot dogs cut up. Or if I don't have that and I'm digging into like my hurricane supply, it could be Spam or whatever's on sale. At the end of the day, all that matters is that you're satiated. And also, thinking about how to make that happen is maybe buying whole grains in bulk, right? So like 1 pound of dried beans cooked equals about 4 cans of beans if you were to buy it, but at a fraction of the cost. So be creative, and I hope we get through this.
We're definitely going to get through it. It's going to be challenging short term. So back in 2005 when Florida had like a hurricane every weekend for a month.
Yeah.
I was out of power for 3.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did have was, believe it or not, Chef Boyardee raviolis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like pop-top cans. You don't have to heat it up. Now, I'm not saying that's awesome, right? But it fills you up, and you don't need to heat it, and all you need is a spoon or a fork, and you're good to go. Just saying. And it's a couple of dollars a can. Just throwing that out there. It was sustained us for almost a month. Someone said that food has always been the great uniter. What does that mean to you when you're cooking for people who might be struggling?
When I hear that, I think that no matter who you are, where you come from, what you have, what you don't have, the fact of the matter is I feel like everyone can understand and gain comfort from a shared meal. And, in times like this, if you have extra, maybe send some home. I don't know, in Spanish households, even when there wasn't a lot, there were always like to-go packs, right? And, and we can still make that a thing if we have to give and do it and accept it, because it has to go both ways. You have to accept it without shame, and you have to just give if you have.
So then growing up for you, what was the process?
Growing up was tough. We had some, financially difficult times, and my mom was incredibly creative, and she kept us fed. So, it's kind of a funny story, growing up at the time, picadillo was one of the cheapest cuts of meat. And so she would buy like a pound of picadillo and she would make it. And that's what we would eat every day for like a week. And now, as an adult, picadillo is one of my comfort meals, and my brother hates it. He'll never eat picadillo ever again because we've eaten it every day. But, it just goes to show that, the struggle foods is what my husband and I call them, right? Your rice and tuna, your rice and egg, although eggs are now astronomical, but, your arroz con salchicha, like all of these dishes that we were eating because they were affordable are now comfort meals. So, that's how my mom did it. My mom would purchase produce that might be close to expiration. So this is another thing that I will say, like a pro tip: go to your farm stand. And I still do this. And so I go to my farm stand, and there's always like a table out front with like bags, whether it's peppers or maybe a pineapple that's like literally needs to be eaten that day. And these things are quarters, maybe $1. And I will say that those pineapples are always my favorite because they taste like candy. But my mom, she did that, and she would come home, she'd cut off the bad parts, and she would make a soup, like you can be creative, and that's still one of my favorite hacks.
What people forget is just because there's some blemish on a piece of fruit or veg, it's probably the perfect time to eat that fruit. Don't forget that.
100%. Being a home gardener, which I have to say life has been a little busy, so my garden is completely neglected. But when you have real produce, it's not pretty. It's not like what you find in the store. It's going to be odd shaped. It's going to have brown spots. But yeah, I agree with you.
Pasteles, they carry a lot of history. And what are they representing to you beyond just a dish? And I know we're doing this for Centro Tampa Bay, and I don't care what John says, I'm saying Tampa Bay like that.
For me, it's, they mean resilience to me, so my favorite part about making pasteles is, the women gathering. And, that's the time of year where there's a lot of chatter, right? So you get a lot of oral history, right? You get a lot of the stories. We're always so busy and everyone's like scattered all about, but one time, this is like one of the few times out of the year, maybe once or twice a year, if you're lucky, that, you're having a slumber party. It's that quality time where I really feel like it has gifted me the privilege of actually getting to know, and I'm specifically thinking of like my Titi Lucy, who I inherited when I married my husband. I love her, I admire her, and, but you have your aunts, your favorite aunts, and you have your favorite cousins, and the older ones, but you don't really know them. You don't know the struggles. You don't know, what they overcame. And I find in those times when, even with my mom during Thanksgiving, that's our holiday, you get the stories where you see your parents or, your elders, instead of seeing them as like your aunt or your mom, you see them as women. And for me, like, that's my favorite part of coming together. And also I take the opportunity of like, hey, I've always wanted to learn how to make this. Can you, teach me? Or, because even though we're making pasteles and we are eating, we will eat them, we're still cooking other things. And so I take that opportunity to learn the family recipes and learn the family history. So for me, that's, my favorite part of our pastele tradition.
How are you deciding what you're going to change or how you're going to adapt?
Well, ease, grading them, like for instance, the pasteles were typically milled by hand and graded by hand. And then that's really, really nice. But that's also because food processors weren't around, right? And now they are. So you know what? Why not? For me, if the end result is still a bite that will take someone back to their childhood, then how I got there, and if I took a shortcut like a food processor, doesn't matter. So that's how I decide. But I'm not going to be like serving some deconstructed pastele because we got to draw the line somewhere.
You talk about no waste cooking like a lot. What's one habit you wish more home cooks would start doing right now? And not just like taking pictures of their food and posting it on social.
No. For me, I wish more people would think about all the different ways they can stretch a single ingredient, right? I wish that more people thought about all the different ways they can stretch a single ingredient, right? So one of my favorite no waste recipes, and it's one that I push a lot out there, is a no waste vegetable stock. So you think about your vegetables, right? You buy them, you might cut them up, and you throw away the stems, you throw away the seeds, you might throw away the skins, depending on what it is, like if it's an onion, and then you just use part of it, right? But you can actually make it work for you in 3 to 4 different ways, okay? So you can keep a freezer bag in your freezer, but you can keep a bag in your freezer and you can freeze those scraps to make vegetable stock, right? So now you've used a majority of the vegetable. Now you're freezing the scraps to make stock, And then, if you are a home gardener, you can compost that, turn it into soil, and have it come back for you. But that liquid gold that you make from stuff you were going to throw away anyway is something that can fortify your meals. So when we talk about food banks, there's a lot of boxed foods, right? Instant rice or, instant mashed potatoes, which are typically made with water, right? You can use this stock to fortify it and bring in nutrients and just, be more creative. I think about, one of the things that I make during the holidays is a candy made out of grapefruit peels, right? And it's like I brought the grapefruit marmalade, right? One of my very first walk and talks, we made the Elena Cruz with the Aussie Select. That grapefruit marmalade, I got those grapefruits to make the candy out of the peel, but then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with all this inside stuff? What am I going to do with all this juice? And I turned around and I made it marmalade, and I had marmalade for like 6 months. I gifted you guys some, I gifted some friends some, so be creative, because what was going to go in the trash literally just became homemade gifts. And that's something else to think about during the holidays. It is a time for giving, but we need to take away the pressure.
I long for times gone past. I mean, all the stuff you just said is really, that is old school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that there's going to be like a circle back around to that. I mean, people need to get off their phones. I hate to say it. I mean, it's the truth.
It came back around during COVID, and I thought it would stay. But, it is, the memory is short, right? What is it? Something is long and something is short, but
I don't know. Something's long, short. We got TikTok out of COVID. That's what we got.
Yeah.
Second reels and, just brain into the neck. We're highlighting groups like Feeding Tampa Bay and World Central Kitchen. I mean, that's where things need to kind of start from the ground up. Why is it important to have this particular conversation?
First of all, I have been a long time volunteer with Feeding Tampa Bay, going on like 15 years. And they operate on 2%. So for, every dollar you donate, 98 cents of that goes to feeding your hungry neighbor. And that alone gives me goosebumps. And as far as World Central Kitchen is concerned, what an incredible organization. So I don't know if I've shared this story before, but after Hurricane Helene, my daughter had, she was in kindergarten, had a classmate stranded on Clearwater Beach. And they were running out of food. They were running out of water. They were trapped because, all the cars were dead. And I emailed World Central Kitchen, and I'm like, I need to help these people. And I kid you not, I was on the beach the next day. What people don't realize is every dollar that you donate to an organization like Feeding Tampa Bay or World Central Kitchen. So for World Central Kitchen, they will pay the chefs, they will buy the food for the chefs to be there. And they hire local talent. I know She's So Crispy used her food truck to, I think she was in Treasure Island, but, they will put the money back in the economy to help feed that community. And their response and their organization was so impressive, because I just kept thinking of that mom and of my kid. And it was so hard not to put myself in that situation and know that day that I got there, she had sent him, she found a ride. So I don't know if she hitchhiked. I don't know how she got him to school, but he went to school with their very last granola bar, and I was there. I got there and I was able to, deliver meals to people in their homes. And it was just hugging her that day from one mother to another. Oh my God, it breaks me thinking about it. So that was my first interaction with World Central Kitchen up close, and they have my utmost respect. And as far as Feeding Tampa Bay is concerned, they have done such incredible work in our community. They have cafes now where, they hire people and teach them culinary skills to send them out into the world and help them, get jobs. And I mean, they have markets where you can go and shop with dignity. And they've got, their social media is on fire. Every day there's pop-ups all over Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, they service 10 counties. And, they are making the resources available. So, you have to give it to them because they're a well, oiled machine, and they're run by passionate people.
Chef Jose Andres and what he does with his organization is fantastic. Mm-hmm. I do want to shout out Chef Amy Sins out of New Orleans with Fill the Needs. She is everywhere when it comes to feeding people, disasters, just anything possible. She gets tractor trailers on the road, gets people evacuated out of places. She's a real one. So is Stan Hayes too from Operation Barbecue Relief. All these people are fantastic, and these are the sort of programs that you need to follow and support.
100%. And that's, I'm glad that you bring up the support, because if I can just give one little quick plug, as soon as these SNAP benefits were announced that they were going to be cut, not coming in on November 1st, I saw a lot of people going out to grocery stores and donating to food banks. And people might have some hesitancy in donating money, but let me tell you, they can buy way more with your $1 than we can on our own. And that's because they have special relationships with these large grocery chains like Publix and Walmart, which I have to tell you, they have full on 18-wheelers pulling up full of food. And that's because they get it 10 cents on the dollar. So if you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to spend $20, $25 buying groceries, give it to, Feeding Tampa Bay or World Central Kitchen or, some food organization, a food bank, right? We've got Feast in Palm Harbor, because they can turn around and make that 25 100.
When you look at the food industry, do you think we're doing enough to make cultural foods accessible and affordable?
No, I don't. As a CPG brand, I see it firsthand between the tariffs and the taxes and the inflation. I want my food to be accessible to everyone. I think about, the elders in my family on Social Security. And I know that, if my product was in a store, they might not be able to afford it. And I don't want that. But the fact of the matter is that, it was shocking how expensive fresh produce was just to make my own powders. So no, I don't think that as a country, we're doing a good job of making food accessible, period. And as far as, making cultural food accessible, I think it depends on how you look at it. Are the recipes accessible? Yeah, go to domesticgourmet.com and you can learn how to make puerco guisado or pasteles, right? But in order to, afford them, right now in this day and age, I don't know.
I'll tell you this. I've got a couple of young kids, and do they love Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Absolutely. It's loaded with all sorts of stuff. The alternative, the healthy alternative to that particular flavor profile, that little, is almost triple the price.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so when you want to eat healthy, they stick it to you grossly.
That what people don't realize, and what I learned the hard way was, and I hate to bring it back to the tariffs, but, I paid a really hefty price on cardboard. My spice tubes are made out of cardboard, right? So you think about that translates to cereal boxes. And then you've got a different tariff for plastic. Well, that's the bag. And then spices. Where do you think cinnamon comes from? Most often it comes from Asia. And now there's taxes and tariffs on that. So it's compounded. When I saw that, for cardboard and, exporting from China was 25% tariff, I was like, oh, okay, good. Because back in April, it was 157%, right? But then I learned that there's a formaldehyde tariff. And I'm like, how does that apply to me? I'm not a pharmaceutical company. And then there's some section 30 something, and at the end of the day, it ended up being a 55% tax on top of all my taxes. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's hard.
I genuinely believe in the end, this tariff thing is going to be good. The short term, because they said it even in the beginning, the short term is, it's not going to be pretty. It's not like they said it was going to be roses. Things are going to shift and it's going to get ugly. But I think in the long run, that's going to turn. I really, really believe that. It's just the nature of it, and we're experiencing some struggles, man. And it affects everybody. It affects everybody. But at the end of the day, we were getting taken advantage of pretty badly. And I know it's like, it hurts us in the pocket now. So you want to like kind of kick the can down the road. I get it. But man, it's going to happen sometime. This was going to happen in some fashion, one way or the other.
But it's kind of like not saving enough. And then, an emergency happens and now you're bankrupt, right? So you've got the tariffs and that's hurting us. And now you've got the government shutdown and there's no SNAP benefits. They say that they're coming, but, right now people did not receive them on the 1st. So, you just really just kicked a man while he was down. And it is very painful and very scary for me to see.
Ciji, you've launched your own spice line, started publishing recipes again. You're also the ambassador for EndoFound, the Tampa Bay. I really do say it's not what you even heard it in the monologue. That was natural for me. The Tampa Bay Latin Chamber, and you're also a finalist for the Philanthropist of the Year award via Tampa Bay Business and Wealth magazine. I don't know how you are doing all these things, but how are you balancing entrepreneurship and advocacy?
I'm very fortunate to have a strong team around me to kind of help pick up the slack when I feel called to a cause. But one of the ways that I try to balance the two is I try to incorporate my advocacy work, which fills my cup, with the business. So for instance, March is, endo awareness. I'll still be out doing cooking segments and recipes and all that, but I'm going to tie them into maybe an anti-inflammatory or, something endo related, or like right now, a lot of my recipes are geared towards low cost, cooking. So
you're talking endometriosis, right?
I am talking about endometriosis.
Okay. Just want to be clear for the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So EndoFound stands for the Endometriosis Foundation of America. I am a stage 4 endo warrior. I've been fighting this since I was 9 years old, multiple surgeries. So it is a cause close to my heart. Same thing with food insecurity. I'm very fortunate that my mom was super crafty and my brother and I never went hungry, but that's not to say that I didn't see the impacts of that. And so that's why it's important to me too, especially, I think about 16 million children that have lost their SNAP benefits. And now with the government shutdown, programs like Head Start are also shutting down. And that's a program where children were being fed breakfast and lunch. They're losing 2 meals a day. So, in times like this, it might not always be good for the business, but I feel like it's part of my core values. It's just part of who I am. If my family, anytime there's a crisis, I check my kids, I check with my husband. We're okay. Then you know what? We've got it in us to go out and help someone else.
Amen to that. By the way, audience, if you want to learn more about Ciji's story with endometriosis, go to Hospitality Bites by Colleen Silk. Terrific episode. She's another podcaster affiliated with Walk and Talk Media. And it was a terrific episode. Go check that out. Ciji, if somebody hears this episode and can only take away one thing from it, what do you hope that it is?
I hope that we can shed the shame that maybe some of us might have surrounding asking for help. And
chefs and food buyers, let me tell you about a product that will generate new excitement on your menu. Fully cooked, pasture-raised, all-natural Australian lamb from Aussie Select. Their award-winning, handcrafted, innovative products are blended with the finest spices and amazing flavors. Options include agave rosemary, tikka masala, lamb pastrami, and lamb prime rib roast. Available sliced or whole with a long shelf life too. Find out more at AussieSelect.com.
seek assistance. I see it all over Facebook. Who needs help with groceries? It's not easy to say, I need help, but please do that, because if it's out there, take it. And so that's what I really hope. I hope that people come away from this inspired to be crafty with what they have, to stretch their ingredients, and to ask for help.
I mean, so that was well said, obviously. And I concur 100%.
Thank you.
You know what I wanted to do too, John? Rosana Rivera and the empanadas from Savor St. Pete. Girl, I love you.
I love her too.
Yeah. Ricardo.
From Tampa Bay.
From Tampa Bay, man. I love you too, bro. Ciji, how are people finding you?
Domestic Gourmet, everywhere. DomesticGourmet.com for those no-waste recipes and spices and anana oil.
And speaking of girl, let me tell you something. The donut, the fried dough. Oh my gosh. I'm craving it now. I'm up to here and I still want mas. I'm just saying. All right, John, as always, baby, we are out. Let me tell you about my friends over at Citrus America and their amazing juicing equipment. They're revolutionizing the way you enjoy freshly squeezed juice. They're at the best hotels, restaurants, and markets. Their mission is simple: develop a unique consumer experience with on-premise juicing, deliver healthy taste options to clientele, and juice more faster. It's that easy. Citrus America supplies the highest quality juicing equipment and solutions in the industry. So whether you're a small business owner or a large corporation, Citrus America has the right juicing equipment for you. Find out more at citrusamerica.com.